We're out here testing out lenses today. I've got my bear subject. To most people, this is just the side of a house, but to me, it's a photo opportunity. With the right lenses, you can make this location look amazing. So if you look at the outside of the house, the sun is to the rear of this location. I'm in a shadow. I've got nice even light on my subject, and then I also have a good depth. I've got some foliage in the foreground, and I've also got some foliage. I've got some foliage back behind my subject. So with the right lens, this is a perfect location to take some really great photos. So my first lens that I'm going to review is the Canon 70-200. So at 2.8, what you're going to notice that the aperture is how wide, how much light is being let into the camera frame. With all my lenses that I'm going to be reviewing today, I'm going to shoot them wide open at their highest or lowest f-stop, whichever way you want to look at it, wide open at 2.8. So let's see what it does. And you can see the bokeh back there in the background. You can still make out the tree. No, it's not like a smooth bokeh. It's not like creamy per se. You can still make out some of the background there. Right. The next lens we're going to be reviewing is the 85mm Canon L series. It goes down to aperture of wide open is 1.4. So let's see what this one does. Have adjusted my ISO and my shutter speed to accommodate the lower aperture. I was using 2.8 with the last lens. I'm using 1.4 with this lens, so it's letting in a whole lot more light. So I needed to stop it down just a little bit with the shutter speed. I would say I can't tell much difference between the 85mm and the 70-200. Right. This next lens is the Canon 200mm. It will go down to 2.0. It is the aperture. You'll notice that I'm going to have to back up quite a bit to get the same photo that I got of the bear with the 70-200 and the 85mm. So I'm going to back up and take this shot of the bear. The 200mm has, like, you see less of the background in those, as you'll notice. It's a little bit of a creamier background. Like, it looks more like a painting in my opinion, like just more like brush strokes, like broader brush strokes. You don't see the same round bokeh. And I also noticed with this one, the curvature, like, so it starts to curve around with the bokeh when you have the 200mm.
Yeah. It's nice.
Yeah, it's a nice shot. So, and with that one, I did have to walk backwards just a little bit further, so I was more like in the trees with the 200mm. This next lens is a Canon 14mm lens. It's got its own place in portraiture. I mostly use it for real estate because we're going to see what it does to this subject. It's super wide angle, so you're going to see a little bit of distortion. But like I said, it has its place in portraiture as well, so don't discount this lens completely. It goes down to a 2.8, so it's really great for low light situations as well, but let's see what it does with this subject. As you can see, I'm super close to my subject with this lens. That's pretty much the only way to shoot unless I want to get all of this background. Start to see the whole environment at this point. So you can see the wall, you can see the fence, you can see the sky. So for the 14mm, I would say location does matter a little bit more. You're going to need like a cooler environment. Like maybe I would say if I'm thinking about like a staircase and you have someone coming down the staircase and you want to shoot down the staircase, that would be super cool to use the 14. I've also used it at the beach with a couple. As long as you have them in the center of the frame, you don't get the distortion that's on the outsides. You don't want to put someone on the outside of a 14mm lens. They will look this wide, okay?
They'll look different.
different.
Can't fix it. I mean, it'd be really
It's
tough to
gonna
really fix it. I mean,
look really, really bad, and they will hate their pictures. If you keep the couple in the center, like if you're looking at this shot that we're gonna pop up on the screen, you can see that the bear is pretty normal. I would say maybe his feet are a little bit getting picked up in the distortion, but the middle, you're gonna see that it's proportional. Like there's not as much distortion there. It's all along the sides and the top and bottom.
This is the 2 to 400 millimeter. It's got a wide open f-stop of f4. I primarily use this in my action photography. Probably not an ideal portrait lens. However, just for fun, we'll take a look and see how far away I am. I mean, I'm going to be about as far away as the 200, but you know, it looks fun.
That's a big lens you got there, babe.
Thank you. And it's cold.
I like it. 2 to 400 is also really, I'm going to look at that one. The bear's super sharp, and the background is, I would say, I don't know, it's not I don't think it's as creamy though as the 200. Like the 200,
no, but
like
it's an F4 versus the F2.
Yeah. So that's probably one of the big differences is the aperture. Try to teach you over the next few videos and just watching us and how we work. We literally shot these photos on the side of our house in the middle of the day. So what you will learn to train your eye for is what you know that your lenses are capable of. We get asked a lot what the bokeh is.
What the bokeh is.
Maybe they don't know what the word is.
I don't know what it is.
You know that blurry background, that blur back there. And that's what even the iPhones are trying to copy, but they can't. They can't copy yet, at least, the buttery goodness that you're going to get out of these lenses here. Yeah. So let's talk about each one of the lenses. What is the big guy?
You can also do shoulder presses.
Don't drop that.
We want to talk about or show you how to look for the right place to take a photo when it's difficult to have an ideal location. But also, the other question we get a lot is, what lens do I need to buy? Mm-hmm. But we wanted to talk about the lenses that we use and why we use them, just briefly. So the 2 to 400 is what I primarily use when I shoot, and that's because I do motorcycle and car photography at the racetrack, and I can't always necessarily be standing next to the racetrack and use like the 14 millimeter, although I have in some rare situations.
Can't go get hit by the bikes. So, no. So the big guy is good for that.
Yes. So it does very well in lower light situations, but it's very specific in what you use it for. And generally it's action or animal wildlife photography. I don't do a whole lot of wildlife photography except for my children.
200 millimeter fixed lens. This is great for portraits because it gives you just an amazing bokeh. Downside is this lens is fairly heavy. It's not something that you would take to a wedding.
Honestly, it's almost as heavy as my 2 to 400 because there's a lot of glass in it to zoom in, to have it zoomed in at 200 millimeters at f2, or that's pretty fast.
More practical lenses will be your smaller lenses. The 7200 is one of the primary lenses that we use at weddings and for engagements and portraits. I mean, this is such a versatile lens. Like it's one of the ones, I think you said this would be the one that you would recommend for.
Yeah, somebody said, hey, I'm going to start doing portraits, weddings. What lens do I have to have? I would say the 70 to 200 and probably another wide angle lens, just to kind of, round out your ability to shoot in different locations.
So if you are going to do a church wedding, this would be great. To, even if you have to shoot in the balcony, you can get a nice shot. It's also a low light lens. It focuses well in the darker situations. I would say if you're starting out, if you want a sharp image, just make sure that you're at a higher shutter speed, and then learn how to handle the lens and hold the lens as steady as possible, and then you can go down on your shutter speed. But for me, I try to keep it around 80 shutter speed to 100 shutter speed. But if you can hold it steady, it's an amazing lens for pretty much everything. Different people can hold it steady at different shutter speeds. I just move around.
Depends on how big it is.
I just move around a lot. And we also have the camera that we used up here. This is the Canon 5D Mark IV. Just in case you were wondering what camera we used for these shots. Next lens up, going down the aisle here, is the 85 millimeter. This was my favorite lens for a long time because it's not as heavy as the 70-200. It takes an amazing portrait. It's super, super sharp. Like, super sharp.
Yeah, it's not as heavy.
It's not as heavy.
No, it's not. Yep. So prime lens is fixed at whatever it is. So the 85 millimeter is always the 85. So if you want to get further away, you move away your body and your camera.
You walk your feet.
Yep. Walk your feet, and you go further away. Or if you want to get closer and zoom in, you zoom in by walking toward your subject. The 70-200, 2-400. Those are what we call zoom lenses.
So another one of the primes that we have, the last one that we're reviewing, and I do want to mention one other one. I do want to mention what we are recording this video on as well.
It's on the camera.
It's on the camera, so we can't really turn it around and show you. But it's actually, he said the 70-200 as your first lens. If you're doing weddings, I would say that one.
Yeah.
If you're doing kids or portraits, or newborns, the 24-70 has been my go-to lens for pretty much everything. The sharpness is amazing. It and I can, like, if I've got a kid running at me, I can zoom it back out and I can get that good shot, good action shot. This lens here is pretty cool. I didn't think I would have much use for it, but I have done portraits with it. I've taken real estate photos with it, architecture photos. And my profile picture on Facebook is me jumping on a bed, and that's with this lens because it makes you look higher, a little bit longer. It's the one con to it is distortion, but that distortion can also be used, if it's used in the right way, to make a really cool portrait. So this lens is not like a go-to if you're starting out, unless you're starting in real estate. Then this would be the lens to go to.
So what lens should you get? Depends on what you want to do.
Yes. So bigger isn't necessarily better.
Nope.
It's not go big or go home. It's more how you're going to use it and what you're going to do with it and where it's going to fit the best. Where you take the shots and how you take the shots.
Hey, meet Masha, Kitty.
Hi, Kitty.
Masha, hello.
Don't knock these over, Kitty.